Welcome back to HPP, the Hoops Prospects Podcast. Last week we had 2 episodes, one covering the top seniors in this year's draft class, and the other was a special bonus episode, an interview with former NBA player Len Elmore. If you haven't listened to those, I recommend doing so. The Len Elmore episode will definitely appeal if you like basketball history. So you can check those out at hppod.buzzsprout.com or any of the major podcast outlets, including Apple and Spotify. My name is Rich Harris, and I am joined by 3 HP analysts, TJ Brown, Drew Barton, and Hugh Baxter. Today, we will focus on the top international prospects in this year's draft. And later, we will be joined by Guy Mura, the manager of the Antwerp Giants in Belgium in the B-Next League. Gentlemen, how are you doing today?
Doing well. Can't complain.
I'm doing great, Rich. A non-American won the MVP again. Life is good.
Jokic deserved it, man. The Jokic slander is Jokic slander will not be accepted here. I'm a big proponent of Nikola Jokic.
As long as he's not Canadian, I'm okay with it.
But no, I'm doing good, Rich. Can't complain. But yeah, I'm with you on that one, man. I'm all for the Jokic love.
Okay. All right. Well, before we get to any basketball talk, I want to acknowledge that this is going to be TJ's last episode with us, at least for a while. TJ is graduating this weekend, and he is moving on to do an internship with the USA Today. Also, to my knowledge, Hugh and Drew are both graduating soon. I'm correct on that, right? Both with your masters?
Yeah, I'm in December. A few more months.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
I wrap up May 21st.
Scratch that. We're not honoring Hugh. We're not honoring Hugh today, but Drew graduates on the 21st. So we are going to miss TJ, and I want to also want to mention in the School of Communications, he won the student of the year, or how do they word that? Most outstanding?
It was something about outstanding achievement.
Okay.
I could call it MVP.
MVP.
Even in basketball terms, man. TJ was MVP.
Of the School of Communications at Quinnipiac, and excellent program up there. Many of the people who contribute to HP have come from that school. And I appreciate TJ's efforts over the years. He's been with us off and on for 3 years, right?
Yeah, 2020.
Yeah. So you will
Congratulations, TJ. Congratulations.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. And my little 2 cents is obviously I appreciate my time on Hoops Prospects. I've had fun. I love talking basketball, love writing about it, watching games. This is not work. This is just a good time for me. So I appreciate everything.
I'm glad you said that, because I had a nice check right here, but since it's no, just kidding. And Drew, congratulations to you too.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Couple more weeks.
Right. So got the announcements. So let's chat about the playoffs for a little bit. Anybody have any outstanding thoughts? I could start us off by saying, one thing that's occurred to me as I'm watching the second round is it seems to me, and maybe this is an overgeneralization or something, but I've been kind of amazed at the players who've kind of proved to be like the deciding factor have been what Shaq would call the others, but they're even, is Maxey and Harden, are they others? I don't really consider them others. I'm talking about people like Danny Green and Maxi Kleber, and you guys could probably help me out here, but there have been others, have contributed, and they've seemed to really been the difference. We fit Dorian Finney-Smith the other night. So yeah, and one thing I found really interesting about the Dallas series is it seems to me that the first 2 games that they lost, the Mavericks, it was all Luka. and it seemed at the end of the game he was exhausted. I mean, he was just, and now when the series went to Dallas, he became more facilitator and not so ball dominant, and they've played a heck of a lot better. And I think that allows him to play better on the defensive end.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely something to that. My quick 2 cents on the Maverick series. I'm really rooting for Chris Paul. I'd hate for him to be the main person to blame, because game 3, game 4, he's been looking really bad. As soon as he turned 37, that's when his game pretty much deteriorated. I chose the Mavericks to win this begrudgingly, but I just had a feeling, and this was the feeling. I didn't know they were going to make a whole bunch of threes and shoot over 45% from 3. I think they shot 20 or made 20 in game 4. But yeah, in terms of Luka Doncic and his play style, he's still ball dominant. That's the way their offense runs. But I do like when he is posting up instead of just getting the ball screen every single play down. So when he does post up, it sort of switches it and makes guys just a little bit antsy in terms of trying to dig in on him. I'm talking about the Phoenix defenders, or just giving a different look to Dorian Finney-Smith, who can just catch an easy pitch out or kick out pass, or Maxi Kleber or Jalen Brunson. So yeah, I think the Mavericks look good, but it's still a series. I think going home for Phoenix is really good for them. So I expect them to win game 5.
Rich, you mentioned Luka's supporting cast. Obviously, games 3 and 4, they were huge. But the question is, can they do that on the road? That's the thing for me. I think at home, obviously, it's going to look great. They got the crowd roaring behind them. Dallas needs to win a game in Phoenix if they're going to win this series. And we didn't see much in the supporting cast in games 1 and 2. So I'll be really interested to see if a few of those guys, if Jalen Brunson and Dorian Finney-Smith can play like they did the last 2 games in one of these games in Phoenix, game 5 and hopefully game 7, if we get there, then I think Dallas has a real shot. But until we see them do it on the road, I don't know yet.
Yeah, I was just gonna say the same thing with you. The others are great when others traditionally play well at home and they struggle a bit more on the road. So we're gonna see, because that's what Dallas is. It's Luka and a bunch of others. With Chris Paul, as a Bay Area native, we've been going head to head with Chris Paul since his days with the Clippers, and I respect the hell out of his game. It's kind of funny watching somebody use the same antics he does, the flopping and that's kind of what Luka does. Luka's kind of throwing himself out there and throwing his hands up every play. And I understand there's this cerebral aspect of the game, and Chris Paul being a 6-foot point guard, he's had to master that. But all I'm saying is I would love to see a Scott Foster Chris Paul game 7 in Phoenix and see how it goes down, because I think Chris Paul is 0-14 when Scott Foster is the head referee. So I'd love to see it. I still think the Suns can do it, because I agree with you. I just think that Dallas's players have been 2 completely different brands of role players. At home, they've looked great. On the road, they've done nothing. But we'll see. I think this one, out of all this series, I think this is the one that goes 7.
I did see a concerted effort out of Jason Kidd in those games 3 and 4 to run even whole quarters with Luka off ball.
Sure.
With Jalen Brunson initiating, getting Luka coming off ball screens and not necessarily wearing and tearing him down so much. So hopefully that continues towards Phoenix.
Speaking of wearing and tearing down, the guy who reminds me so much of Allen Iverson, John Morant, and one of the similarities is the beating that the little guy takes. What's the latest on him, by the way? Has anyone heard anything new?
Looks like he's going to be out. It's trending towards he's going to be out tonight. There's no official report, but it's trending towards he's out.
Okay, so he's
Rich,
questionable.
You see that grin on Drew's face? That's the grin of John Morant isn't playing my Warriors tonight.
Yeah.
I think. Look, I mean, I like the Grizzlies. They're super talented, but at the end of the day, I think regardless, I think the Warriors are just outclassed them up here. Not so much on the court, but I don't know. I feel that's what it's boiled down to. Think about this. Ja had to go for 50, and the Warriors had to shoot under 30% from under 20% from 3, and they won by 5. I mean, they really won by 3. I mean, there's late free throws come into play. So I just think the Grizzlies are the textbook case of the others. And I think this physicality of the series has gotten to the point now where the Grizzlies can't stop talking about it. And they're more worried about fighting the media and fighting the narrative than they are about beating the Warriors on the court. That's what I think it's become. And it's like everything. Ja's tweeting more than has tweeted out more shots than he's made. Like, at some point. So it's like I really like the Grizzlies, and I love John. I love the we're gonna run at the chimney doggy dog mentality, but it's becoming to the point now where it's becoming a little bit more whiny, and it's like, all right, man, like it's a tough series. It's hard fought. You're playing a veteran team. You don't need to talk every 5 minutes about how these plays are rough and tough. It's the playoffs, man. Jordan Poole did not dislocate or tear anything in his knee. There's no way, but that's an argument for another day, I guess. I'm sure the Twitter doctors out there are ready to fight me. But Jordan Poole did not hurt John Morant.
I really, Jaren Jackson, I wasn't crazy about him, coming out of the draft. Brendan O'Sullivan, a friend of TJ's, was basically, it was Hoops Prospect started. It was only Brendan and I, and we would argue seemingly every week about how good Jaren Jackson was. This is when he was at Michigan State, and I don't know, man. I still see the same things I complained about him back then. When he was a freshman at Michigan State, the same issues exist.
He's a huge enigma to me. I don't know any other. There's very few players with his draft pedigree and talent. One night he'll have 25, 8 rebounds, 3 blocks, shoot the hell out of the ball. The next night he's got 4 points, 3 rebounds, and no blocks. And you're like, what the hell happened? Like I don't know if there's a player that is more talented, that is more like prone to just being either the best player on the court or like the 15th best guy.
You're right. Yeah. Or worthless. Yeah. Celtics Bucks, that to me, that's exactly what I expected. I still like Boston to win it. But the Sixers Heat, that's the one that I actually find most intriguing because, I thought, I expected Embiid to miss more time than he has. And even if he came back, I didn't think he would be this effective. Now he's still not quite there, but he's also dealing with that thumb injury on his shooting hand. But who do we like in this? Who do we like in this series at this point?
Yeah, I could jump in very quickly on Embiid. Even when he doesn't score or shoot, just by being 7'1", 280 pounds, that can dribble, pass, and shoot, and do whatever he wants on the court, that scares Miami. That gives Tobias Harris more space to shoot. That gives Maxey a easier closeout to attack. So it doesn't matter that he doesn't maybe make as many shots field goal percentage wise, but just his presence alone, that's helped Harden even. Harden is obviously, he had a really monster game last night, and it's partially due to Embiid. In terms of the series, I still feel Embiid being back helps a lot. Like, I know a lot of people wrote them off, and I personally would want the Sixers to win just so I could see Embiid in the conference finals and see if he has a chance to make the NBA finals. But I think that Spoelstra is such a good coach that he'll figure out a way to either switch up the lineup, get Bam Adebayo a bit better looks and just guard better. He'll go to a zone, and maybe that'll slow down some of the other guys. So I still have the Heat in either 6 or 7. Well, it has to go at least 6 since it's 2-2. But I have the Heat right now.
I'll tell you what, Kyle Lowry didn't look good yesterday.
I was going to say, Kyle Lowry's been a nightmare honestly, most of the playoffs, but this series in particular.
But he can't run.
Yeah, like it's bad.
Yeah, it's the hammy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. It seems like they rushed him back from the hamstring, maybe.
Yeah, 100%. He hasn't been good most of the playoffs, and now that he's hurt, he's really been a non-factor. So I think Duncan Robinson needs to get a little bit more burn. As bad as the Heat have been shooting, for all the money they're paying him, I think he deserves at least a shot to get out there and see if he could just.
What's he
making? Because Jimmy Butler's
11 million.
I think might be more than that now.
I think he's on like 3-year, 90 million. I'll look at.
Yeah, it's more than that now. He's probably over 20.
Highest paid undrafted player in the history of the NBA.
I just think I'm not saying he's got to be the go-to guy, but I mean, you're paying him that much money. He clearly can shoot. I think he's got to get some kind of burn because Jimmy Butler is going to, even if they advance at this rate, Jimmy Butler's not going to be able to sustain a conference finals matchup and then a finals matchup. He's playing so many minutes, asked to score, defend, rebound, and pass. They'll run out of gas even if they win this series.
Right.
So
very Luka-like.
Yeah.
Duncan Robinson's making 15.5 million this year, 16, 18, 19, 19 the following years. I don't understand the argument, Drew, though, that if someone's getting paid an X amount, he has to be out there. I don't quite.
Well,
if he can't defend, he can't defend. It doesn't matter how much is in his bank account, no.
That it's more so. It's just like at some point you gotta. I mean, maybe use him because they can't. Jimmy Butler scored 40 and they still lost. Like at some point you got to mix it up, and it's like I agree that like it's not about the money. I'm just saying from the standpoint, like you paid him all this money because you saw something of value in him. Did that value in 1 year go from this guy's worth 90 million to nothing that quickly? I mean, I get not being able to defend, and like I understand, but it's like, you know, and I'm not trying to compare the one to one, but there's plenty of guys that can't defend that find short little bursts, come in, give you an injection of life because they can't shoot. I mean, they can't shoot at all right now. It's Jimmy Butler versus the entire team. And I know we talk about others and, you know, the Sixers went home and the others have looked really sharp. So we'll see how it shifts back in Miami. But at some point it's like, maybe it gives you an injection. Maybe he comes in and hits 3 threes and gives you some life. I don't know.
Yeah. I agree. You could definitely throw him in for a minute or run something for him out of a timeout and try and get him going a little bit. But I think the Heat have been surprised by Strus. His ability to defend is obviously better than Duncan Robinson's in their opinion, and he can shoot the ball. And then Victor Oladipo getting healthy at the right time. A combination of those two things are really the reason I think Duncan Robinson isn't seeing the floor. And I'm pretty sure Duncan Robinson went off on the first game of the playoffs.
Yes.
I think he had like
first or second.
Threes.
First or second. I think it was the second game. I think the second game
maybe
he
the
got
second
really hot.
game.
That's what I'm saying. Like but like at this point, you're in a dogfight. It's the playoffs. Maybe you go, hey, let's see if he can recap that magic at home and get up 3-2. Because I mean, you saw what his peak could be, and we know what the valley could be. But I mean, at some point, you know, if you're getting 40 from your best player and losing, that's a problem.
James Harden would just.
And honestly, go ahead, Hugh.
I was going to say James Harden was going to go Duncan Robinson hunting, but you'd think Miami's defense is collectively good enough to be able to beat that.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And I was thinking, you know, the Sixers almost always have somebody that he could probably stick with, be it, you know, Paul.
I think
Reed,
he could guard Danny Green.
Right. So I was going to say Paul Reed or Danny Green or Thibault, you know. So, okay. All right. So moving on. Today, the NBA announced its the invites to the G League Elite Camp, which is a combine that takes place just before the regular combine. And a lot of these guys, this is basically they're going to be their last chance to impress somebody. But a handful will move on to the NBA combine. And so I'm just looking over the list. Some guys that I'm pretty high on that are there would be Tevin Brown, Gabe Brown, two guys we've talked a lot about. Tyler Burton of Richmond, Michael DeVoe is there. Alan Flanagan, this is huge for him because he had such an off year coming off that Achilles injury. One of the best shooters in the country, and I was surprised he got invited, but I actually we talked a little, not on the show, but his name, Kyle Foster from Howard. Happy to see that Kyle made it. Javon Freeman Liberty's there. Kellen Grady, Jordan Hall, St. Joe's. We talked about him. Jalen Wilson of Kansas. Bryson Williams, Texas Tech. Luke Travers, who we will talk about today, played for Perth in the NBL. He's the only foreign player I see. Jermaine Samuels of Villanova. Oh, Marcus Sasser. I didn't even know Marcus Sasser was in the draft. Now Marcus missed most of the season with an injury, and I thought he was still injured, but apparently not. JD Note, it will be there from Arkansas. Pete Nance, Cameron McGusty, David McCormick, Kansas, Tyrese Martin of Connecticut, a player I like. I think he's a sneaky prospect. Our boy Brady Manick. So those are some of the names that are going to be there. And we Hoops Prospects will also be there and covering the action, and we'll report back to you during our shows, not live, but we're going to report back to you what we find out and discover. And hopefully we'll even get a couple of those players on the show. And in fact, Jamari Bouye is one of the invitees. Oh, Buddy Boeheim too. And of course, Jamari was on the show just a few weeks ago. So moving on to the main topic today, which is the top international prospects in the draft. Now, of course, most of these guys have the opportunity to pull out. And I expect that a fair number of the players, or maybe half of the players we're going to talk about today, are eventually going to pull out, but they don't have to do it until about a week before the draft. So topping our list for right now on our draft board is Nikola Jovic. We talked about him a few weeks ago in the Stretch Big episode, so we won't go back into him. So we're going to start with Yannick Nzosa, and he's very mobile, big, who plays in Spain for Unicaja. Less than a year ago, Nzosa was considered the top European prospect in the 03 class, but his stock has dropped. I mean, I think most people probably at the beginning of the year had him as a solid mid-round pick, maybe even a lottery prospect. Problem is his offensive game is so limited, and he really isn't even performed. Well, maybe Drew could talk more about this, but it's definitely his stock is now dropped to the point where right now he's looking more like a second-round pick. One thing I will say, he's playing in Spain, which outside of the NBA and EuroLeague is the next best league in the world. So it's not too uncommon for someone like him, who's 18 years old, not to get a lot of playing time. So Drew, what are your thoughts on Yannick? I know you watched him recently.
Yeah, so I went back and watched the game. I watched highlights throughout the season. I went back and watched most of a full game earlier this year, and I believe late January against Casa de Mont Zaragoza. Yannick, Rich, you got hit on the head. He's got a really interesting build. He's long, thin, 6'11" frame. He's only about 180 pounds, but he is a really fluid athlete. This is a guy that will block a shot on one end of the court and then sprint down and be one of the first guys back to the other end. That's where his defensive upside lies. We're talking about a guy that could be a great rim protector, just kind of a shot contester. He has the fluidity to jump out on the perimeter. In the game I watched, he came out to the three-point line and just smothered a ball handler and forced up a contested follow-away jumper, which you do like as, the NBA becomes more and more about versatility. This is a guy that can, in theory, jump between the post and on the perimeter. His lack of strength, though, definitely impacts him on both sides of the court. He was moved around on defense where some, bigger, beefier players would kind of just lower his shoulder into him and try to go up through him, led to a lot of kind of fouls where he just didn't have the ability to stay straight up. He had to kind of hack at guys. Offensively, he did flash some touch. He's a lefty. There were a couple of times in the post he threw kind of a baby hook, which was nice to see, but his entire offensive game he's a pick and roll finisher. That's what he does. He has no face-up game, no real mid-range, definitely no three ball. He does have a nice free throw stroke. He went to the line, he went 2 for 2, and looking at his stats, he's been a solid mid-70s free throw shooter throughout his years playing in various organizations in Europe. So I think the mechanics are there to maybe develop a bit of a mid-range shot, catch and shoot. I don't know about a face-up, post game. But at the end of the day, he had limited playing time. This year he played 10 to 13 minutes per game in the ACB, and he's got the physical tools. The physical pieces are there, but there's a lot of refinement that needs to happen if he wants to survive, especially at the NBA where now bigs are being asked to do things like play make, defend 3 or 4 positions, and stretch the court. He's lacking those areas, but I could see a second round project, somebody dumps in the G League or, stays overseas for a bit, and maybe in 3 or 4 years he pops.
Right. I would definitely have to agree with you. When we're talking about somebody who was considered a possible lottery pick, not that long ago. And now we're looking at the middle of the second round. I think he would be crazy to come out this year. He can polish up his game over there, get paid doing it, and is developmentally, Spain, has the facilities and the expertise to train a player. The one problem with Spain, though, is the players are so good that the kids, of Nzosa's age, a lot of times are not going to get a lot of minutes. You see the same thing go on in EuroLeague. So a lot of times what happens is they send these guys to like the Adriatic League or something like that on loan, and they can go there and they can get 20-25 minutes a game and develop their game. Then they come back to Spain, play a year, and then they go into the NBA. So we might be looking at not a 1 year delay, but maybe like a 2 year delay for him.
Yeah. I mean, I will say this, Richmond, I was able to track down his stats, and back in 2019, 2020, didn't play that many games, but he was getting about 28 minutes per game at an under 18, like an 18 under league. And he averaged, I believe I'm looking at this, 15, 10, and almost 3 blocks a game, almost 4 blocks a game. So there's something there if he gets the minutes, but most recently he's playing 10 minutes a game, averaging less than 2 points per game. So,
yeah, that's the other option.
Yeah.
Spain has 3 levels, and not counting their under 18 league. So he could go to either the gold league or the silver league and get more minutes too. So a lot of different options for him. But I would highly suggest, if he asks, which I'm sure he will ask me personally what he should do, and I would suggest he wait a year or two. So now, switching gears, we go from, this is the World Be Free of France, Hugo Besson. And Hugo has never seen a shot that he doesn't consider a good one. And defense is, to me, at least in my experience watching him, is something he considers to be
optional. It's optional.
Yes, optional.
If he so desires.
But the boy can score. So, TJ, I know you watched him recently against, I believe it was Perth. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, and also the World Be Free. I've heard of him. That's a little bit before my time, so I can't mark down exactly the place now. But I know how Hugo plays, so I'll take that. I think he played for the Sixers. World Be Free.
And Cleveland for a long time.
Cleveland a long time, yeah.
He played, I'll give you, when the Sixers played Bill Walton's Portland Trail Blazers in the NBA Finals, they had Dr. J, George McGinnis, Doug Collins. They had Hall of Famers. And who took all the shots? World Be Free. Guy, if you gave him the ball, you never saw it again.
Yeah. Okay, gotcha. Thanks for painting that picture. But yeah, on to Hugo. France, played in New Zealand with another touted player who we'll get to later, Ousmane Dieng. But yeah, Hugo, he averaged about 14 points, 4 boards, a couple assists for New Zealand Breakers. And generally, I like him. I think he's a really clever, slick guard, not a true point guard, not a true shooting guard. He's more of a combo, so he plays in between that sort of realm. But yeah, just imagine when I watched him, I was thinking of more of a Goran Dragic, but less of a point guard, but more of a scoring guard, in the sense that he has a nice shot. It looks really translatable. I think that's why he takes a lot of tough ones. He knows his shot is pretty. He knows he has some range on it. Even if the numbers aren't always there, he still has, he has a good looking shot that's going to be respected, as well as he has some creativity finishing wise. He's not a great finisher in terms of athleticism, which is one of his weaknesses as a on-ball creator. He's not shifting people. He's not blowing by guys, but he will be crafty. He will be slick with his handle. And that's where I mentioned Goran Dragic, in the sense that Dragic's not blowing by guys like that, but he's slick, he's sudden here and there, and will get you on a runner. And interestingly enough, Hugo was in the 57th percentile on runners, 0.821 points per possession. and as a pick and roll ball handler, which I think he'll be fine to do as in the secondary or tertiary playmaker. He was in the 64th percentile, 0.836 points per possession on there. So yeah, I would like Hugo in the second round. I think, he's 21 years old. So he's not super young, but he's not old at all. 21 years old, at about 6'4" as well, just to give those simple identifications of him. But yeah, I think he would be a nice mid-second round pick if you want to just have him be your second, third guard, not even just as a point guard, but just a general guard on your roster who can use the pick and roll, as well can be a catch and shoot player, who as well as can be nice with a floater in the paint if he's ran off the 3-point line. But like you said, defensively, he's not going to be a plus. He's probably going to be average at best, probably a little bit below average since he is 6'4" and not that athletic. And he's also a little bit, he's not too skinny, but he's not, his physical measurables aren't going to be impressive next to NBA athletes. But yeah, that's my general impression of Hugo. I think he's worth a second rounder.
I think maybe you disagree, what you often do with me, but I think he has one of the better handles in this draft class. What do you think?
I think it's nice. Again, I only watched 2 games. I watched the Perth one, also watched SC Melbourne. So I don't know all his tricks, but from the 2 full games that I watched, I thought it was he had his moments where he used the screen and got to maybe 10 feet away from the basket or went further in. But again, I think of his ability to blow by guys, and it's not really there, even if he can do a nice behind the back here and there. I was more impressed with his creativity as a finisher here and there, in terms of just, that's a nice scoop layup that he just tried, or just being a nice little floater with touch. That's probably what I like the most, his touch as a finisher / shooter.
Okay. The next guy on our list, as we mentioned earlier, who's going to be at the G League Elite Camp, and that's Luke Travers of Perth. What'd you think, Hugh? What do you think of this? He kind of looks like like he got lost in the wild for a while with that hair of his. He seems, I don't know if he is a character, but he looks like he could be.
Yeah, he seems like a bit of a character. I have written down here, best hair in the NBL. He's got the mullet flowing. It looks great. So I know you love checking in on March Madness hairstyles, Rich. So now we got the international hairstyle sort of corner as well. But Travers, he's been with Perth for 3 years now. Started as a development player, which is, I don't know how familiar you guys are with the NBL, but that's basically like a redshirt year where you do everything but play, and you as a youngster get involved in the club, and then if that goes down well, you will be on full-time part of the roster. And now in his second season after being a development player, he's playing really well. He's arguably their best player as a youngster, and he just does a bit of everything. He's got good size, 6'8". He's 215 pounds, 95 kilograms. And in the couple of the games I've watched, and I've been sort of paying attention to him for a bit over a year now, they really trust him with the ball around the offense. And a lot of that has to do with their best player, Bryce Cotton, is a small guard who they can really get off ball pins, and Travers can find him in scoring opportunities. So they're comfortable with him bringing it up. I wouldn't say his handle is the strongest yet. He's not necessarily breaking people down that often. He's a good creator out of the pick and roll, though. He plays at his own speed. I don't think he's anywhere like Luka Doncic, but he has a bit of that where he's fine playing slow and getting someone on his back. He's very patient in the ball screen. If he can pause and let the big switch onto him, then he can use that hesitation to get by the big and get to the rim. And he does have some crafty finishes. He's not the best finisher, but there's some instances where he shows skill and stuff that he clearly works on. One I saw in a game I was watching yesterday where that second stride step, he really slowed down and let the shot blocker fly past, and then just sort of guided it nicely off the glass. So I was impressed with things like that, but the biggest concern for him is his shooting. He only shot 25% from 3 this year. And the Sydney Kings, who are the best team in the league, they were just daring him to shoot the ball. They were going under all of his ball screens. They were basically leaving him or sagging off him in the corner. And the game that I watched, he was playing in front of an ESPN analyst, Mike Schmidt, who had flown out to Australia to check in on a few of the NBL prospects. And
I'm not familiar with that guy. Who'd you say he works for?
I don't know, some sports company. I don't really know who they are. It's like 4 letters. I can't remember how they go, but he put on a bit of a show for that analyst, whoever that guy works for. He had 20 points, 5 rebounds, played pretty solid, didn't shoot the three great. But I watched an interview afterwards and they said that the shooting is going to be the biggest swing thing for his draft. If he can prove in workouts that he can shoot the three consistently, then I think he might have a chance going late second round. If not, I think he's definitely going to be headed back to the NBL for a few more years. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You know, time for him to develop, time for him to mature a little bit, continue to play, hopefully play some finals basketball for Perth next year if he does go back. I mean, he's below 50th percentile on all offensive categories except for his cutting, which is the 91st. So 15th percentile on half-court jumpers too, alluding to his inability, or just it seems almost like a lack of confidence to shoot the ball at this point. I think it's probably a bit in his head, and maybe a bit of work on that will help him out in the future. But he's still young. He's 20 years old. He will be 21 at the draft this year, but he averaged almost 8 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2.3 assists this season. I think something that is really exciting and that prospects, I mean, that teams are looking at is his defense. In the game I was watching yesterday, he spent the whole game guarding Jalen Adams, who was the MVP of the NBL this year. And he has great size at 6'8", good intangibles to defend at the next level. So,
is that Jalen Adams from St. Bonaventure?
Yes.
Former, okay.
Former Bonnie. He just won the MVP of the NBL. And his Kings are in the NBL finals right now, up 2-0 on the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. So just the fact that, you know, they trust him with the toughest defensive scout is impressive right away. And that's definitely a side of the ball that he has a strong ability in, and I think could really help him translate at the next level.
One thing that stood out to me, actually two things, was he seems to have a really good vertical. And when he goes up for rebounds, he's like always the first guy to leave the floor. I mean, he's like really explodes off the floor. So, and the other thing was I saw, you know, some good creativity finishing, you know, like hang time, body control. But overall, I think he's above average athlete. Would you agree? Or
yeah, I think he's above average athlete. He's nothing that's going to blow your mind. I think on the basketball court, it did seem a bit like when he runs, he doesn't look like it's the most fluid of stride I've ever seen. I have written here that he has doesn't have the craziest burst of speed, and he plays almost somewhat upright. But I do think he does have that athletic side that he probably hasn't even completely tapped into yet. And I think with probably
did you notice
trainers,
though how he explodes off the floor for rebounds?
Definitely, I definitely noticed it in his finishing ability. Like I said, the body control I think was really impressive with his being able to sidestep or Euro steps type of things, finishes in good touch, and rebounding, yes. But I wouldn't say I'd say he's a sneaky athlete is probably how I'd describe it. Right.
Okay. All right. One of the guys I'm going to talk about today is Khalifa Diop. He's a center, plays for Gran Canary. Mobile center. He's 20 years old, been playing pro ball since 2017. He has a good frame and he's solidly built. 6'11", 7'2" wingspan, 230 pounds. He's definitely right now he's better on the defensive end than the offensive end. He's limited offensively. One of the things that surprised me, even though he is mobile, especially for his size, one thing, he plays below the rim more than you would expect. I'm not saying he can't dunk. Of course he can dunk. And, you know, he catches lobs and things of that nature. It's just I just think if he does like test at the combine or something like that, I think we're going to find out he doesn't have a great vertical, especially standing vertical. But, you know, defensively, he moves well, effective on hedges, blitzes, and things like that. And he's switchable. I wouldn't say, you know, he's not going to like a lockdown defender, you know, as a center, like Adebayo or something like that, but he's switchable. One thing I found interesting is he finishes and blocks shots with either hand. And the one thing that I wasn't crazy about was sometimes he just doesn't seem to have the greatest awareness. He can be late on closeouts, helping at the wrong time. Those are things though you can learn. He has good rebounding percentage, 17, and block percentage of 5.6, but he's not always dominant around the basket. And I think that's mainly a lack of an aggressive approach. And, sometimes it's effort. Sometimes you'll see that he just won't go for the block or the rebound. And he also, despite his size, he's still, in Europe, he can be playing against 30-year-old men, and as big as and strong as Diop is, he still can get pushed around. Runs the floor well and is excellent at finishing in transition, 95 percentile for points per possession. He's mainly a rim runner, roll man. But he will surprise you every once in a while with a drive now and again. I've seen him cross over, and like I said, I've seen him finishing with either hand. His shooting form's not bad, and he's capable from deep off the catch. However, this year he only took 7 jump shots in the half court, and he made 2 of them. Generally they give him a lot of space and they dare him to shoot, and this is where he runs into problems, because without the ability to hit the shot when they give him that space, what he usually does is he takes up that space by driving, but then he runs into a wall, and he doesn't have the mobility to maneuver around people, and so that's problematic. He really needs to come up with some kind of ability to, like, when he's starting off in the high post and they're leaving him open, he's got to be able to do something there beside just driving into a wall. So and of course he's seeing drop coverage all the time, so he's never made a 3 as a pro, and he's only shot 55% from the foul line this season. So even though his form is not bad, he definitely has a ways to go as a shooter. Other parts of his offense, he shoots some right-hand runners, right-hand jump hooks, and I've seen him hit a turnaround jumper in the post every once in a while. Another main weakness in his game is he's not much of a playmaker. His assist turnover ratio this season was 0.5, not good. Overall, I'd say his energy is good, but it's not outstanding. So basically what you have right now is you have a pretty young guy with a nice, good body. You don't have to, he's not as far as most people his age in terms of, we always say he's got to add muscle. I mean, we always say that, this is a guy, he too needs to add some strength, but he's not that far away as most people. But what's really lacking, beside the ability, to be a roller and finish in transition, is he just doesn't really have much else going on for him offensively. So just based on his sheer size and his upside, I think we're looking at a late 2nd round pick if he stays in the draft. However, if he wants to come back next year and stay in Spain and work on his offensive game, I think he could potentially be a 1st rounder, but he's going to have to make some significant strides on the offensive end.
I'm curious, Rich, how would you compare him with Yannick and Nzosa? Is he better? Is he just around the same level? Or do you think that Diop is worse than?
No. I think Diop's got more of an offensive game than Nzosa right now.
How is he athletically compared to Yannick? Is he more athletic?
Oh, athletically? No. He's Nzosa's got him athletically.
Yeah.
Yannick will pop in a game. Like, it might not be. There were plenty of times they just throw the ball at the rim. It almost seems like, for him, just kind of catch it off, or like they kind of just throw a lob towards his direction, and he might not finish it, but like just the fact that he gets up, can come down with the ball is pretty impressive. But a guy like this, like I've only seen Diop play once, and I just feel that, like, when you're lacking a motor, it seems like, and your calling card is kind of those hustle things like defense, rebounding. That always just kind of worries me, is like, are you gonna be able to stick around long enough to develop the offensive game if your calling card is defense and rebounding and shot blocking, and you don't seem to have a passion for that and like that drive? That does kind of worry me. I haven't seen him enough to play to make that call. But
yeah, well,
just from
no,
the sound of it.
I see that too. I see that too. You know, I mean, I've literally seen him not jump for some rebounds.
Yeah, that worries me.
And I'm like, what the hell?
If that's your role,
But
like imagine if Clint Capella didn't jump for rebounds, he wouldn't be in the league. He doesn't do anything else if he doesn't contest and play hard. So
right.
you know,
And
I
think Capella is, you know, kind of where is kind of the, you know,
Sure.
the kind of player type that he is right now. But I wouldn't say I'm not saying he's a total slacker. He's not.
Right. I haven't seen him enough to make that call.
But it is obvious that he's not giving 100%.
Yeah.
So the next guy on our list is one of 3 Italian shooting guards that we're going to talk about today. I would say that this is Gabriele Procida, and I would say that he is the best prospect of the 3. Drew, what are your thoughts on Procida?
Yeah, so I watched him play again. This is a game from earlier in the year against Napoli Basket. I'm not sure if that's short for basketball. And the first thing I noticed right away is he just has kind of score first mentality. He's looking to get his shot and get to the basket and or, you know, hit a 3. 3-point shooting is kind of something that over the last 2 years, he's really kind of established himself as a key skill for him. He's averaging about 2.5 attempts per game at 38% over the last 2 years. And, you know, Rich, you mentioned it earlier, these are kind of young guys who don't get a lot of burn in games. So he's playing less than 20 minutes a game. So while the volume doesn't seem great, if he were to kind of play out of maybe a few more minutes a game, that volume could probably crank up and he has the ability to hit the 3. In the game I watched, he showcased a really good variety of scoring ability. He had a catch and shoot 3. He had a really nice kind of Euro step finish for an and 1 where he finished with the left in traffic. He had a tip in, which kind of surprising from an athletic standpoint. He crashed the glass and he had a tip in finish, which was really nice to see. And then the most impressive basket was he had like a step back contested corner 3 that he hit when the play kind of broke down and they just kind of swung the ball to him in the corner. As a playmaker, I didn't see a lot. It looks like when he gets the ball, he's kind of in attack mode. He does average less than 1 assist per game, but he's also at less than 1 turnover per game. So he's not killing you with giving the ball up, but he's not really generating for others. When he gets that ball, I didn't really see a great handle, but he's a good straight line driver. Like he gets to the basket and attacks. He's not going to be a guard that kind of creates space and takes his man one-on-one off the dribble. I would love to see him maybe play with his head up a little bit more, because when he did get into the lane, it was just, I'm putting the shot up, not maybe kicking it out, trying to spread the love a little bit. So I think as a scorer, he has a knack for getting the ball in the basket. He could work on, and you see this in his percentiles as a catch and shoot guy. He's in the 73rd percentile, but as an off the dribble jumpers, he's down in the 36. So this is a guy that's not going to break his defender down, pull up and kill him in the mid range or from 3. But I think he does have enough offensive versatility that he can kind of make an impact as a scorer. And defensively, he didn't really pop to me, but he didn't look bad. I wasn't like worried about his defense. Nothing just really popped though. I didn't see a guy that's going to be locked down or anything like that.
I think for a European player, he's definitely above average athletically. I think he's got a lot of vertical pop. And I think his speed and quickness, especially speed, is definitely better than you'll see.
That tip and finish really surprised me.
What's that?
He crashed the offensive glass and he got a tip like over, and it just, I was like, oh, whoa, I did not see that.
Oh yeah, he can explode.
It wasn't a dunk, but I was like, damn, he really got up and he got through traffic and put the ball back on the. I was impressed.
Add into the 6'6", with that vertical pop. And he's a pretty good shooter, a good shooter, he's shooting close to 40% and playing professional basketball. So I like him. I agree though, there are certain aspects of his game that that I don't think he's first round, but I think he's definitely a second round prospect.
He could definitely fit in on a bench as a scorer. Like just from what I've seen, he has enough scoring chops. I just think like other things like playmaking and stuff need to come along.
Right. Well, actually, I know he doesn't do it a lot, but he's actually, when you look at his pick and roll numbers as a handler, they're good, you know.
Yeah.
And as far as defense, that's between, he's definitely more of an offensive player, but I think with that athleticism, that's something that he could pick up.
Yeah, I wasn't concerned about him, which says something because European guys sometimes have that always a finesse guy. Like at no point did I think, oh, they're hunting him on defense. I thought he was just fine. Like
Right.
he looked fine, which is if he can defend at that level, then he could probably carve out a defensive role in the NBA.
Right, I agree. All right, the next guy is he started off the year horribly, and that's, I think I'm pronouncing this right. It's Ousmane Dieng. Is it Ousmane?
Ousmane Dieng.
Dieng. Oh, right. I forgot the D's pronounced it right. But this guy definitely has potential, upside. Upside should be written on his back of his jersey. But he started off the year slow. So when you look at his overall numbers, you're like, that's nothing special. But I think if you looked at the second half of the season playing with New Zealand in the NBL, and if you watch him, the eye test will tell you this guy can play. So what are your thoughts on him, TJ?
Yeah, no, thanks for the lead in. And this is my favorite guy from the international class. I guess if you count Dyson Daniels, maybe number 2, but not counting Dyson Daniels, he played for G League Ignite. He's my favorite international player. I haven't watched a whole lot of Jovic, but from what I watched of Jovic compared to the 2 full games and highlights I've seen of Dieng, yeah, I'm a big fan. So yeah, if you don't know him, he's 6'9", 6'10". I think he's closer to 6'10", looking at the game film. 6'10", at least a 7'2", 3 wingspan, just eye testing it. He turns 19 on May 21st. And yeah, you think 6'10", oh, he's probably a front court player. Nah, he plays a wing position. He's a true wing with power forward, front court size. He's really skinny, less than 220, 15 pounds from different places that I saw. But yeah, he's just think of a 6'10", 18 going on 19-year-old that can pass, dribble like a guard, and can sometimes make off the dribble 3-pointers here and there. He was breaking those earlier in the year, and even later in the season, he would have some bad misses, like, oh, that looks ugly. But when he has the shot going down and is confident, I think that's probably the biggest thing for him, just being confident, and that's probably why he struggled early on, just not being ready to play against grown men in the National Basketball League in Australia and New Zealand. But yeah, he's the real deal. So just to go more in depth, I love how he dribbles the ball. He doesn't have a tight handle, but just when he gets to a stance and when he's trying to create or use a ball screen, he looks like a wing. He doesn't look like a stiff 6'10" player, which is awesome, especially for someone that played as an 18-year-old during this year for the most part. He's also has a nice looking shooting form. Percentages are horrible, really low 3-point percentage, sub 32, 31%, if I'm not mistaken. But when he shoots it doesn't look like he's a bad shooter. He just looks like he just didn't get comfortable making shots in a grown men's league. In terms of length, that's not a question. He's really long. He has the recovery ability. He's going to get to the weak side, no problem, if he's aware and is on it. And for the most part, he looks like he's trying on defense. I didn't think of him as someone that didn't care about defense at all. He was trying, and sometimes we get out overpowered, which is what is probably the most glaring thing, because he's so skinny. He's going to get demolished here and there by guys that may be shorter than him, but weigh 215, 220, 230 pounds. But yeah, in terms of upside, he has upside that's top 10 potential in this draft, to be honest. I probably wouldn't draft him top 10. I do more deep dives into his game and just knowing how good can he be as a scorer, for example, because the step back threes, they're here and there, but they're not the most consistent. You can look at the numbers and see for yourself. But in terms of what he has in his toolbox, in terms of the ball handling, in terms of knowing how to pass the ball, that's probably his biggest strength. I didn't even mention it yet. He's a really good passer. He has one-hand passes. He has vision. He can hit the roller, and he has the height to look over defenders as well. So that's what makes it easy for him. But he had an awesome against Southeast Melbourne. He was coming down off a ball screen at the top of the key, and he hit a nice kick-out pass that was with one hand. I'm like, oh, I did not expect him to be able to see that nor make that pass with one hand off a live dribble. Yeah, so that's generally what I have on. Oh, one last thing. He's not the most explosive, which is probably why he wouldn't be considered top 10, probably lottery or late lottery or outside the lottery, just about. But he's not an explosive athlete. He's more finesse and fluid rather than I'm going to power through or jump over you, as well as he's not the most physical player. Again, he's 18 going on 19, so I'm not mad that he's not good at drawing contact, but he's just not going to look and seek it out and get to the line. I kind of thought of like worst case scenario, he's probably a better passing Darius Baisley. But in terms of best case scenario, I don't have a perfect comp. I can't really think of a player that has his size and the passing is real alongside his jump shot. It looks projectable in terms of the shooting form. And once he just gets more reps, he should be good from catch and shoot and potentially off the dribble. So if I was an NBA team, I would look really closely at him in terms of workouts, look at the game tape, and hope that if you can just get him to build strength as well, just because I'm projecting 2-3 years down the line, I don't see how he's not one of the top 12, 13 players in this draft with his size and his skill level already.
Hugh, do you have you seen much of him?
I've seen bits and pieces of him this year. I wasn't the fondest of the New Zealand Breakers this season, but I think everything TJ said is nailed it on the head. I think he's a really exciting prospect. And I mean, we're going to keep saying it throughout this podcast, adding size is going to be the key for a lot of these guys, but a lot of them are so young. And yeah, Dieng's so young that I think, like TJ said, he's going to have a very exciting future.
Yeah, and very quickly, he's definitely a player that it definitely matters where he goes in terms of fit and development. If he goes to a team like the Kings, I don't think they'll pick him at like 7 or 8. But let's say they do, then I'll be really scared for him because I think Sacramento will rush into things and play him at like a power forward when he's really not a power forward at all. They'll misuse him or miscast him. So if he goes down later, maybe to the Thunder, who are going to be very patient with him, and they already have playmakers to put the ball in their hands and not have Dieng do too much too early. If he goes to even a Hornets team, and that's later outside the lottery, I think that would be pretty cool just for him to be a bench small forward or taking the minutes of a Jaden McDaniels, who was the backup 3-4 for Charlotte. So yeah, I think fit in terms of which team drafts him is definitely going to come into play in terms of how his career pans out.
Spurs. He'd be perfect for the Spurs. You could say that about anyone.
Oh my God, Greg Popovich will love him. He's like, oh, you just are a skilled 6'10" passer that can shoot.
Greg Popovich isn't going to retire, man. If he gets something like this, he's going to hang around for a few more years.
Yeah, Popovich like, let's rebuild. Let's build around this guy.
The Spurs do it, man. The Spurs love their international players, whether they draft them or sign them for free agency. They know how to get everything out of a guy if he's not from the States.
Yeah. I love it.
Now I've on our draft board, Jovic has been ahead of Dieng all year, but that was based on the slow start. Having watched them both recently, I expect, I expect, and by the way, our rankings will be coming out this week, and I expect Dieng to be ahead of Jovic and to be in the top 20.
Yeah, I think that's
that seems reasonable.
Oh no, 100%. I think that's very reasonable, especially since I think his upside is just higher. I think his upside is just higher.
Yes, most definitely. Yep. Okay, moving on. I hear this guy is just I'm not sure why, but apparently he is a huge hit in Australia, and that's it's Kai, right? Kai Sotto.
Sotto.
And he's a huge player and played for Adelaide. And Hugh, what do you think of? Do you know why he's so popular? Is it because of the being from the Philippines and the location, or is there another reason?
I think it's just the Philippines. They are some crazy basketball fans over there. They love the sport, and I think they're just fired up about the opportunity to get a full Filipino. This will be the first true Filipino that will be in the NBA once he arrives there. So I just think that's where the excitement comes from.
Right now, he
Kai?
does. To my knowledge, he does not. I know because I talked to somebody at the NBA. He cannot pull his name out of the draft. He's an automatic qualifier. I think it has something to do with him. He was supposed to play for Ignite last year, and then he pulled out. I'm not sure why, but for whatever reason, he basically has to come out this year. His name will be in this draft.
Yeah, I couldn't get to the bottom of the issue with Ignite, but this past season played for the Adelaide 36ers in the NBL. That's the same team that Josh Giddey was on last year. So to be honest, I would have loved to seen an overlap of Giddey and Sotto. I thought that would have been incredible for the league. But Soto's 7'2" as a 19-year-old, 7'2", 104 kilograms, 232 pounds. He turns 20 in 2 days. So Kai, I know you're listening. This pod will probably be coming out on your birthday, mate. Happy birthday to you. I hope you're celebrating. I know 20 is a great age to be in Australia. None of that 21 nonsense that you guys have over here in America. He can be out and about enjoying himself. I'm sure he won't be, though. I'm sure he'll be tucked away, getting plenty of sleep and getting ready for the draft. I actually was doing a bit of research on him and found out that he already has 12 pre-draft workouts slated with NBA teams. So clearly there's a lot of interest, a lot of buzz going around him. Some people in the NBA who know more than I do clearly see some important things in his game that could definitely translate.
It could be that 7'2" thing.
Yeah, I think that probably helps. Being 7'2" and about to turn 20 years old and already playing against professionals is it's a good spot to be. But I think he's a lefty too, which I love. Something about a lefty, just he seems so confident shooting the ball. For his stats this season, he was 7.5 points per game, 4.5 rebounds, shooting 50% from the field, which I thought the 50% was really impressive because what I noticed in watching is that he doesn't love contact. At times, he seems to shy away a bit from contact, and he can definitely get moved off his spot pretty easily offensively. He's not someone who's persistent in, fighting for space and catching the ball where he wants to catch the ball. But he seems comfortable in a lot of different facets of the game. He shot 38% from three. Granted, that's only on an attempt a game, but that's definitely an upside that I'm sure a lot of NBA GMs are licking their lips about. And he has great touch. His floaters are nice. I saw him shoot a number of one dribble pull-ups, catch it. He'll read a defender coming at him, just put it down once to his right and then get the ball into his left. And he has a nice looking left-handed jump shot. The floaters around, not quite at the basket, but a touch out, he can just float nice over defense on like a short roll type of action. But I ultimately was most impressed with just his ability to read and make decisions as the screener in the pick and roll. I saw him roll hard and his teammates would find him on a steal, duck in. If our position switched, I saw he could tell and he knew when to slip out of screens early so that he could be that short roll decision maker. And I also saw opportunities where he pick and popped because he knew what coverage was coming. He might not have always shot it, but he was able to see what was happening and then find the next available pass. One thing he does do well is he draws fouls. He shot a lot of free throws this year. A lot of the games I saw, his two best games this season, he was at the foul line a lot, which I think is an exciting thing for his future. That the fact that he wants to get to the line, he shoots 70% from the free throw line, so that is again another good indicator for his future shooting prowess. For defense, I wouldn't say oppositions in the NBL were concerned about his rim protection. He averaged almost a block a game, but he wasn't. I wouldn't say people were second guessing their shot selection in the key just because Sotto was around. So I think that's probably obviously got a bit to do with his age. He's so young and has plenty of room to grow. But I think I would like to see as he develops that defensive mentality, and I wanted to really see him hunting shots to block, not necessarily jumping at everything, but being more of a bit of a presence interiorly. But even things like he would catch it in the short corner, and I saw a possession where everything was breaking down. He got pushed off his spot off the block a bit, but immediate catch, face up, quick jab straight into his jump shot, and that swish. Like, there's clearly skills he's been working on, and he's fine tuning for the next level. So that's really exciting. But 21st percentile in points per possession allowed on post ups. So I think the defense is where the biggest area for growth is, and that will come with, like we've said about a few guys here, with the putting on weight, getting more experience against bigger bodies. That will come. But he's a relentless rebounder. He hunts offensive rebounds. He loves running and crashing offensive glass, and at 7'2" with his arms up, he's got incredible size. So yeah, I'm excited to see. I don't think he will go in the second round, but I'm sure we'll see him in the summer league and hopefully working his way into the NBA in the future.
Would you say he's switchable?
I wouldn't say he is. I wouldn't, if I was his coach, I wouldn't be letting him switch on to point guards yet, just because of he doesn't have the greatest foot speed. But I think down the road, definitely, once he works on it, once he does get a bit more into that NBA system, is around better coaches, is around better performance trainers, and can work on his foot speed along with his size to make sure he's at the right weight. Because to be honest, I don't think he needs to get a whole lot heavier, but I think he should get stronger in the right places. Maybe core strength is probably a facet of that, because he's already solid. He's already pretty well built at 232 pounds. But just defining his strengths in the right areas to be able to defend better on the post, to be able to block some more shots around the rim. And then, I mean, if he can get to a point where he can switch in a high-powered defensive system in the NBA, then that's going to be incredible.
Right. Okay. Another guy I'm looking at is another big guy. His name is Ismael Kamagate, and he is from France, or plays in France, I should say. There were a lot of similarities between him and Diop. However, I like Ismael better, and so I'll go into that a little bit. He's similar size, 6'11", 220. He's also a year older than Diop. He's 21. I think his body type is similar to DeAndre Ayton's, but he's not as muscular as Ayton. And in fact, I would say he's somewhat on the skinny side, and he definitely tends to get pushed around right now. But his frame definitely will allow him to add some weight and muscle. He's not a volume scorer, but this is one of the advantages I see that he has on Diop. He's not a volume scorer, but he definitely flashes the ability to hit from the mid-range and also put the ball on the floor. This year he scored 11.7 points per game, and he was highly efficient, 93rd percentile for overall points per possession. Now that these percentiles we've been giving you, by the way, are among international players. So he excels in transition, on cuts, and as a roller, and in those three categories, he ranked no worse than the 75th percentile. He has a nice stroke from the free throw line and off the catch, but this year he was only 6 of 24 on half court jumpers, and from the free throw line, it made 66%. So definitely has room to grow as a shooter. But one thing I was impressed with is his handle. He doesn't put the ball on the floor a lot, but he in general is a graceful player. And I've seen him do some crossover moves, and that's something I think he's going to be able to expand upon, because he just has that. He's a coordinated big. So just like Diop, he really is not a playmaker, and he's even worse. In his assist turnover ratio was 0.4. He definitely he runs the floor well, though there are a couple times, you see this with every big, but he definitely could hustle a little more when it comes to running the floor. But when he puts his mind to it, he can blow by people. So again, comparing him to Diop, I think he's a better athlete in every way. Defensively, he plays with good spacing. He does a good job of positioning himself so he can still get back to his man, but yet is effective, as a threat, as a helper. So essentially covering two people at once at times. He definitely is switchable. He gets low. He's not stiff. Most of his defensive issues are more with decision making, ball watching, all things that are curable. And the other thing you see, and as I said before, he does get pushed around, 6'11", 220. And if Diop is 6'11", 230, they don't look it. Diop looks like he's about 25 pounds, maybe 30 pounds heavier, at least 20. But according to the numbers that we have, there's only a 10-pound difference. But somebody doesn't weigh as much as they say, or somebody weighs more than they say. His effort is good on defensive end, and I like he's one of the players, his timing is very good. A lot of players just, I don't know what it is, and maybe it's instincts or just effort, but when he's switching and rotating, he does it in a very effective way. He just doesn't go through the motions. He makes his presence known. And he effectively challenges a lot of shots without getting the block. And he's a very good shot blocker. 6% block percentage is very good. That's top 10 in the GP League, which is the top league in France. So you combine the fact that he's a very good shot blocker, plus you can see it that he affects a lot of shots during the game without blocking them. Again, good defender. His rebounding is, again, this comes down to being pushed around and so forth. His rebound percentage is so at 14.8. So it's, once again, that mostly comes down to muscle. So basically, while Diop is somebody I would say should come out or should pull out of the draft, I think Kamagate he should come out in this draft. I don't think he's a first rounder, but I think he's definitely going to be a second rounder. And at 21, the time is probably now for him. Because I don't think he would have to make, I think, pretty good strides offensively to work into the first round range. But I do see the upside there with his handle, with his shooting. So, and that's another thing I like about Diop. I think Kamagate has more upside. So I like him, if you can't tell, and I think he's definitely going to be a maybe as high as an early second round pick.
While listening to your breakdown, for some reason I thought of Christian Koloko. How does he compare to a Koloko type? I think Koloko's a little bit taller.
Yeah. Koloko's taller, probably even skinnier. I think Kamagate has more offense, though. Yeah, I would say he has more offense and more offensive upside, but I don't think I think Koloko probably has him defensively. Yeah, I would say, yeah. So it's close, Yeah, okay. I think it's close, but I think Koloko is more defense, and Kamagate, he really doesn't have the numbers. I mean, at 12 points a game, but like I said, 93rd percentile, for overall offense. So, I see potential there. So I think he could be better offensive player.
Yeah, I've seen Koloko anywhere from late first to like nowhere after the 30s in the second round. And if it's pretty close between Ismael and Koloko, then I think that might tell you like he might be worthy of somewhere in the 40s potentially.
Right. And we've had Koloko in the 30s basically all year, and I don't expect that to change. Kamagate, could move close to him in our next rankings. But yeah, no worse than the 40s. So our next guy, Drew, has another Italian sharpshooter, and this guy is he's an automatic qualifier, meaning he was born in 2000. And so he has to be in this draft. And that's Giordano Bortolani. Am I saying that right? Bortolani.
Yeah, Bortolani.
Yeah.
Giordano Bortolani.
Right.
Watching all these Italians play, man, I figured I needed a bowl of pasta. I was watching all these games, man. I need some spaghetti. What's up,
Wait.
you?
That's what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, Drew, are you gonna file for citizenship or?
I mean, at this point, I'm ready. I'm gonna learn how to make pasta and go watch Italian shoot threes all day. I can do that.
You can't.
There's-
You can't already make pasta.
Well, you know what I mean. Like, oh my god. Okay, come on. You know what I mean. Like real. We're talking like real pasta.
Clip it. Clip that. That's going on the Instagram.
Oh my. All right. It's all right. Well. Jesus. So with the Giordano, so I mean, Rich, you kind of hit at it. I mean, this guy's got one really, really big calling card, and that's going to be 3-point shooting. He shot 44%, a little over 5 attempts this year, was 42% last year. And going back to his early days playing pro ball in Europe, he was in the high 30s as well on some pretty high volume. So, you know, he's got a really pretty jump shot. I just, you know, in the game I watched, and it was a lot of highlights as well. I mean, he's coming down, whether it's on the break and just pulling up some catch and shoot opportunities. Rich, I saw you put this down in the notes section, and I totally agree. His passing numbers don't jump off the page. Like he's not traditionally a big assist guy, but he passes with some flair. I mean, in the game I watched, he came down on the break and threw a nice no look behind the back pass to a trailer. Had another just no look to swing the ball into the corner. So I don't think he's the type of guy that's going to be a primary ball handler that's going to go get you 8-9 assists a game, but he definitely has a good feel. And I think that's a good way to describe it. He has a really good offensive feel for the game. He's been playing pro ball in Europe since I think 2017. So he just kind of knows how to play the game. He knows his role is to knock down shots, to hit open threes. Defensively, I wasn't, again, overly impressed. He's kind of a compact. He's 6'4", but he's kind of compact. He's not super long, super rangy. He's really quick. So he's got quick hands, quick feet. I mean, he had a couple steals where he gets the ball and he's down the court for a layup pretty quick. But this isn't a guy that's going to be a defensive stopper by any means. But, I mean, with a jump shot as sharp as his and with just a good offensive feel for the game, I definitely think he is the longest shot. He's already 21. He'll be 22. I think it's in later in the year. So he'll be 22 once the next season starts anyway. December. Yeah. So, you know, I think he has some really key skills that translate, but there's also some question marks. So he's not really an NBA athlete. He doesn't really give you a lot outside of shooting. And, you know, if he was 6'8", 6'9" with that kind of a shooting stroke, you know, it'd be different. But at 6'4", you probably want a little bit more out of a guard, you know, other than just being able to shoot. But I mean, I like him. Like I said, he's got a good feel for the game. And some of the stuff he did, whether it was the shots he hit or the passes he made, I was like, this is a guy that knows how to play basketball at a professional level. So yeah, he's fun to watch. But I don't know. NBA, I don't know. But he's fun to watch. He knows how to play the game. Right.
Yeah. You know, if there's an analogy, I mean, you know, in play style, I mean, I was going to say Tyler Hero, but maybe Tyler Hero in college, you know, because sure. Tyler, as he's been in the NBA, has become more of a playmaker. Mm-hmm. But one thing I like about him is he can also finish. You know, he's a crafty player, so he definitely drives when the opportunity's there. But he's not somebody who's going to, like, if somebody's right in his face, a good defender, he's not going to get around them. But if he sees somebody leaning the wrong way or looking the wrong way, he'll take off, and he has some creativity around the rim, and he can use runners. Again, the numbers don't show that, but when I watch the guy, according to Synergy, he's only made like a handful of runners. I saw him make 2 in just one game. So
it was the same thing with the passing. The assist numbers are really low, but I mean, I'm just like, this guy, and maybe that's part of it is just, you know, that's not what his role is. The guys around him maybe aren't finishers, but I mean, there were some passes where I'm like, oh, this guy sees the court really well, really, really well in some flashes. So he was the most fun guy for me to watch. Yeah. Out of all the guys I scouted.
I agree. And he's a gamer, you know?
Yeah.
He's definitely not a point guard. He's an off the ball player.
2 guard for sure.
Right. And like you say, you know, when you take in that he's not an exceptional athlete and he doesn't do much, I mean, really shooting is his thing, but you know, and he's basically, you know, soon to be 22. Yeah, chances of him being drafted are probably slim. But yeah, definitely a player you want to check out, you know, like in Euro Cup or
totally.
Yeah. Or I think maybe they play in the championships.
They play in the
Champions.
I think they play in the Champions.
Yeah. So that's fun basketball too. So, all right. So the next guy up, and I'm not going to comment too much, but I do have an interesting question when TJ is all done talking about Gui Santos, Brazilian player, good size, versatile, can do a lot of things. What do you think about Gui?
Guy's cool. So I watched 1.5 games of him, saw some highlights. He was probably the hardest for me to evaluate. I don't know. I can't really put my finger. I don't have like an instant sort of, gee, this is what he does. Well, I'm about to do that, but it didn't come to me as other guys. But he's a 6'8" wing, about 210, 215 pounds, solid length, nothing special, like the Jane sort of length, but it's not bad. It's not it's probably an inch or two longer than his height. So probably 6'10". He's an active guy. He can fly around. He's not a super athlete, but he's pretty fast. He's pretty nimble. He has some nice slashing ability. I like his slashing a good amount. But in the games that I watched, and I was surprised that his 3-point percentage is not the greatest, but in the games that I watched, his jump shot looked pretty solid. Looked good off his hands, nothing too, not a lot of wasted movement in it. He had a willingness to shoot also a contested 3-pointer that looked good. Even though it didn't go in, it just like showed that, okay, he's willing to shoot these type of shots from the perimeter. But yeah, again, he didn't really stand out to me in terms of what his role would be. If anything, the time that he stood out the most was on defense when it was a team defense situation. So there were a few times a game that he played with Minas where, let's say someone drove to the hoop and he had to help out and like stunt over just so it's not a straight line drive and force the kick out. He stunted over and the driver kicked it out to Guy's man, and Guy did a nice job of just closing out and taking away the potential 3-pointer and also just stopping the drive. I'm like, okay, that's pretty solid team defense that I didn't expect from Guy. It also helps that he's 6 feet 8 inches tall to do that. He has some solid moments as a playmaker in the sense, or as a dribble ball handler, excuse me. He's definitely not a playmaker in terms of being a on-ball guard that will be the main facilitator or even secondary facilitator. But he's not someone that you wouldn't. I have comfortability with him with the ball in his hands. It's just that he's not gonna be initiating too much, even though he did get some pick and rolls in the game that I fully watched. But most of the time it was just to get to the basket for a layup. But yeah, Guy's probably someone that I don't see getting drafted based off the film that I saw and the numbers that I looked. The interesting numbers that I saw that kind of caught me off guard was his ISO numbers, where it was in the 91st percentile, 1.176 points per possession. He's not too much of an ISO player for Minas, but apparently he's been solid overall in the season. I think that was his third most used offensive possession. And also as a pick and roll ball handler, he was in the 55th percentile, and he turns 20 in June. So I think he's fine to come out and hopefully, I don't know, carve out a way either through Summer League, through G League or somewhere, or come back to Europe. I just don't know how much I have faith in him cracking a team at this point. The only thing is if he does somehow become not just an okay shooter, but a really good one, then that helps his chances a lot. Right now, he's just an okay shooter that has some nice moments of athleticism.
Okay. So my feelings is that he should actually transition from the Brazilian league to someplace like Spain or Italy or Germany, where he can play at a higher caliber ball. But you know what? When I watch this guy, you might laugh at me, but he reminds me of Doncic. And there's one big qualifier here. He's not the passer Doncic is. No. But when you look at he's a big, sturdy guy. All right, 6'8", and he's solid. And he plays at his own pace. But he has all these moves, like he loves the step back, but he also will do like the step through that Luka loves, like he'll stop and pump and then go under, or, he likes moves like that. And like you said, he's not a bad passer. So yeah, he definitely has to improve that shooting percentage. But everybody made faces at me when I said Doncic, but he's the Brazilian Luka to me, except qualifying, he'd have to bring his assists up. He'd probably have to double his assists to really carry that title.
Can he flop like Luka?
Huh?
Can he flop like Luka? Is he a good actor too?
I haven't seen him do much.
No Luka Doncic hate here, people. I'm just saying.
You don't see that nearly as much in international ball as you do in the NBA.
It's funny you mentioned that. I didn't plan on bringing this up, but I can't remember the opponent's name, but the one full game I watched from start to finish.
Was it San Pablo?
I believe so, but they had a point guard named Cardero Bennett, who's 6'1", and he posted up Guy Santos, and he bodied him and pretty much made him fall to the ground, scoring on a post up. It was really funny. I'm like, oh, the 6'1" player just demolished him. I'm not sure if that's real or maybe he did flop. I'm not sure he flopped, but it really did stand out. Like,
I would think the way Santos is built, he would have had to flop because I mean Santos is solid, man.
It was a strong looking point guard. I'm not going to
say 6'1" guy can post up. I think I got a shot, guys. Maybe my career's not dead yet. If a 6'1" guy can post up a 6'8" guy, I got a chance. Maybe
might have to go out to Brazil, man.
Yeah. The problem with Brazil, and you'll see this if you just watch Santos. A lot of times he just like the defense is like, hello, somebody guard somebody. Yeah. So, I think, his next step is to go to a higher, it's still 20. So, go play in Spain, go play in Italy, see how you do there, and then go in the NBA draft.
Yeah. And it's good. And also I should have gave him more credit for this. He's not I like his slashing a bit more than I let on. He has some crossovers. He has some moves in his toolbox. I'm not sure how much that will translate to the NBA. That's probably where my initial sort of impression was. But in Brazil, he did look nice in terms of his I guess, shot creation, getting to the basket, and he's willing to shoot some 3-pointers off the dribble.
Okay. All right. So our next to last guy is one of from the Maker family. This is Makur Maker, who played for Sydney this year. Hugh, what did you make of Makur? Now, I will mention he is also automatically in the draft. He was I don't know if he was at one of the NBA combines. I don't know if it was the G League camp or the regular NBA combine. I think it was a G League camp. So people might be familiar with him from that event last year. What do you think of Makur, Hugh?
Yeah, I was actually pretty impressed with what I saw from Makur Maker. He surprised me a bit. I hadn't really heard of him since he committed to Howard. This is he was very highly touted a few years ago by a lot of high majors that all wanted him to come to their schools, and he decided to go down the path of Howard, and that ultimately didn't pan out how he would have liked. He played one season there and only was injured. I think he had groin issues most of that year and only ended up playing in 2 games, and has now found himself a couple of years later 3 games, many games. And
3, and that was also the COVID year, and Howard, I believe, cut their season short. So that year was a mess all the way around.
That year was a mess, and so now he finds himself in Sydney playing for the Kings, and actually currently he's in the midst of the NBL Grand Final series playing for the Sydney Kings. I watched a bit of that game too of the NBL finals, in which the Sydney Kings are the heavy favourites to win that over the Cinderella story, you could say, Tasmania Jack Jumpers. But he's impressed me. Another game I watched was a bit earlier in the year where they dominated Perth at Perth, and he has his hands all over the game. They have a stacked roster, and he's probably their 4th or 5th option offensively, but he's a really good role player for them in that he rebounds, he plays good defense, he's in the dunker spot, he can pick and pop, and he does a bit of everything for them, just contributing to winning plays. He's still only 21 years old, so technically I think he should be a junior in college right now if he was still in college. And this past season averaged 7.8 points and 5 rebounds a game for Sydney. He's got good size at the 5 spot for Sydney, 6'11", 235 pounds or 107 kilograms. Shot 36% from 3, which was impressive to me. I didn't quite know he had that sort of range. And that's something that I'm really interested about to see how that's going to develop as he keeps playing, probably in the NBL in the future. But I think he definitely could find himself in the NBA, even as I watched a bit in that last second grand final game that was played a couple of nights ago, and he wasn't even really being utilized as the 5. The Kings have a lot of options with Xavier Cooks and Jarrell Martin. And so Mikael was playing a lot at the 4. I didn't see him at the 3 at all. He's probably a bit too big for that. But I think he's got a bit of versatility in that front court where he can play alongside other bigs and be a good passer and facilitator for those guys out of pick and pop situations and out of potentially high post touches. Something I did notice in 2 consecutive plays, one of the games I was watching. First one, he read the floor really well after a pick and pop, felt the stunt coming to his left and quickly just zipped a quick pass over the top to an open shooter for a 3. And then the very next play, they ran the same set, got that same pick and pop to happen. And this time the stunt didn't come, too cautious of that quick pass, one more for a 3. And then Makur just knocked down that 3 himself in that moment. So just that quick recognition and ability to read the defense was something I wasn't aware that he had. And they even used him as a passing post. I think they have a really strong coach who knows how to put that team together well and get everyone the ball where they need it. And they would, a couple of times where he wouldn't force, he'd sort of catch it in the mid post instead of sort of trying to back someone down and force his way towards the rim. He'd understand that either there was a double coming, someone was shading towards him, and there was instances where he would take one dribble back to the 3-point line, hand off to a guard, and then get back into a sort of uphill immediately into a downhill ball screen, which is really difficult to guard. And then he just rolls hard to the front of the rim, was a great lob threat, or not so much in the NBL, not so many lob catches, but more of a dump off, one dribble, gather yourself, flush with 2 type of guy. But I think his poise was what impressed me the most. He just seemed really comfortable at the NBL level. He didn't seem like he was flustered to be playing against grown men. It felt like he belonged, and probably felt like, I'm a lot better than a lot of these people that are out here on the court, which that confidence is what impressed me the most about him coming out of his 1 year of weird college basketball experience. He's in the 81st percentile as a cutter and the 65th percentile with half-court jump shots, which are impressive because his jump shot stroke does look good, and I can see teams really being excited about that at the next level. But 17th percentile around the basket, so his finishing can improve. And then the one other thing, late in the game, sort of the game against Perth was out, the decision was decided that the Kings were going to run away with it. But even when they'd switched smaller guards on him, he was very comfortable and said, okay, I'm very quickly going to exploit this matchup before the defense can bring help. And he just had a quick 2 dribbles to his left, spun around the little who was guarding him, and just finished nice and easy inside. So I think there's just multiple facets to his offensive game. He obviously knows how to play within a team system, but then can shoot the 3, can be a presence inside for dump off passes and finishes, and then is a strong rebounder, can run the floor. So yeah, I like Makur's prospects. I don't think he's going to get drafted, but I think hopefully we're going to get to see him on a summer league team and maybe in a different league in Europe next year, in a higher up league, showing his skills and working his way towards an NBA spot.
I have 2 questions for you. When I watched him last year at the G League Elite Camp, I thought he was heavy and lacked foot speed. Now he could have been heavy because because of the COVID situation, his ankle injury situation, and that stuff. So what are your reactions to those observations I made last year?
From what I've seen recently and from 3 nights ago in that grand final game, I think he looks like he's in really good shape and he's moving really well on the court. Like I said, he was playing a bit of 4 for them on the perimeter and defending on the perimeter too. So I think that might be something he's definitely improved on in regards to his weight. Maybe it's something to do with his eating, but I think his foot speed is at that level where he can compete and can keep guards in front of him. And he moves pretty well up and down the court. I mean, I'm excited to watch game 3 in a couple of nights of the NBL Grand Finals series, but he moves, in what I've seen, he moves up and down the court really well. He's able to beat defenders if he knows he has a sprint to the other end of the court on a fast break type of situation. I don't think that's a concern for him anymore.
Okay, that's good to hear. My second concern is, and this I also noticed, is that he definitely thinks of himself not as a center, and as a stretch four. So having said that, given that he's only about a 35% from three guy, and he struggled defending in the post this year, and listen to these numbers. He averaged 16 minutes a game, averaged 0.3 steals, 0.2 blocks for a 7-foot guy. What do you have to say about that, Hugh?
Yeah, I think that speaks to his want to be a perimeter player. I think growing up in an American AAU system probably stole that from him, stole that purity of basketball out of his heart, which is unfortunate. But I think that he's probably never going to be an elite rim protector. I just don't think it's probably in his nature. And probably it won't ever be an exceptional defender. And I think that is something that will be a calling card for him. But I think he is serviceable in both of those areas. If he's playing in the right system and he feels engaged and he feels like on offense he's involved, then I think he will be able to compete defensively. But I don't think he's ever going to be someone who is leading charts of defensive steals, blocks, charges taken, that type of stuff.
All right. Last question. You're a GM. You're picking for whatever team. You need a big man. Well, you need a 4 or a 5. You could use both, let's say. Who are you drafting, Makur or Sotto?
I'm taking Sotto off the potential. That, to be honest, coming into this podcast, my answer would have been Sotto as well. But since watching both in more depth, I think it's a closer decision that I would have initially thought. I think Makur has impressed me to the fact where it would definitely be a consideration, but I think the upside and still Sotto being 2 years younger, that's where I'm taking Sotto.
Okay, fair. Go right. So moving on to our last guy, and I got the final Italian shooter, and that's Matteo Spagnolo, who played for Vanoli Cremona this year. He's only just turned 19 in January, and this is his first year of playing high level ball. He plays in the top Italian league. So he's 6'4", 185 pounds. And the difference between the other two Italian players we spoke about, he is a combo guard. Probably at times plays as much as the point as he does off the ball. The most recent game I watched of him, actually, their starting point guard got hurt, so he played basically the entire game at point guard. So again, the biggest thing he's got going for him is he's 19 years old, and he's been pretty darn productive in his first year of high level ball. Athletically, he's nothing special. And his vertical definitely seems to be lacking, which is you often see that in European players. As a point guard, he has good vision. He's a creative playmaker, but his youth and inexperience shows. For example, he leaves his feet a lot when he's trying to be tricky with his passes. And of course, a lot of times that results in a turnover. This year, he basically averaged the same number of assists and turnovers in a game, 2.6 of each. His handle's pretty tight, but he's not overly explosive with the ball in his hands. He's more of a guy who, makes use of screens, and he plays in the pick and roll a lot. He struggles to get all the way to the rim, which is one of the things I really felt was disturbing about him. So he ends up pulling up or passing out a lot. And one of his big pluses was listen to these numbers. These are great numbers. 44% from deep this year on about 3 attempts per game, and 86% from the foul line. However, his overall numbers are not very good as a jump shooter when you look at his points per possession, because he took 81 jump shots from 2-point range and only made 40%. And this is in the half court. And from 3, he took 59 and made 41%. So he basically shot better from 3 than he did from 2. And that's because a lot of those are coming off the pick and roll, and he can't get all the way to the rim. So he ends up taking jumpers. And a lot of times those jumpers are of the difficult variety. Where he has to shoot off balance or whatever. So, you know, when you combine the fact that he's shooting a lot of twos combined with his turnovers as a pick and roll handler, and this is even including the results of passes, he was the 29th percentile. So definitely has a ways to go to be an efficient point guard. Defensively, he's fairly aggressive on the ball, but you know, his youth shows at times. Sometimes he just looks absolutely lost. He has trouble sometimes with ball man, not keeping, either watching his man too much and forgetting where the ball is, or vice versa. And the last thing I would say, you know, his effort is not an issue, and he's kind of a scrappy player. So what I see is a 19-year-old that needs some more polish. He just doesn't have, you know, the 44% and the 86% from the foul line. You know, those are great numbers, but that's about all he has going for him. And, you know, if he was shooting 44% on 6 or 7 attempts per game, okay, but he's not. You know, he's actually, it's 2.7 attempts per game. So, and at 6'4", 185 pounds, you know, he doesn't have he's got good size for a point guard, but yeah, basically I think there's a lot of work to do. And being this is his first year in high level ball, I think he needs to polish his game up for a year or two before he actually goes into the NBA draft. We will be talking about international prospects again in a couple of weeks. And some of the players that also I think could be considered second round material that we didn't get to today would be Johan, I think it's Makundo, and he's a power forward who plays for Calais in France, very athletic. And there's Oleg Balzarowski, and he's a center who started the year playing for Mega in the Adriatic League, and then he moved to Gran Canaria toward the end of the season in the Spanish League. A big change in the level of play, but this is a big guy who can block shots, rebound, and make some threes. So another one is Ziga Samar, who plays in Spain for a team. Anybody want to take a crack at that one?
Urbas Fuenlabrada.
Yeah, very good. Very good. He's a very good passer who's kind of come out of nowhere. Nobody really expected, but he's put up some really big numbers in the Spanish league this year. And then of course there's Malcolm Calazon, and he's been in the draft for like the last 10 years and always ends up withdrawing. He's a French player who's played the last couple of years for Mega, and very inconsistent. You know, one day he looks like, you know, an NBA player, and the next he looks like a bad player in the Adriatic League. So, but yeah, there's some of the guys we will probably talk about next time. So now it's time for our interview with Guy Mura. It's time to bring on our special guest, Guy Mura, the manager of the Antwerp Giants, a traditional power in the Belgian league, and now a member of the brand new B Next League, which also includes Dutch teams. Welcome, Guy. Thanks for joining us. And how are you this evening?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, guys.
Sure.
What's up, Guy? I'll start us off with the first question. I know most executives for European teams have many different responsibilities because the staffs are smaller than most NBA teams, for example. How would you describe your job, and how much input do you have with player personnel decisions?
I think that's very correct what you have just mentioned. In Europe, depending on teams, sport directors, GM have different responsibilities. Me within my organization, my role is is mainly to I'm like the main advisor to the board. So I'm the link between the coaching staff and the board. So if they want to know anything about the team, they come to me. If the coaching staff needs anything or want to complain about something, they come to me. Same for the players. So I have three sections of my job. So it starts in the summer, where together with the coach, we have to decide what player we're gonna have in our roster for the following season. Then the coach has the last word, of course, but I'm the one together with our scout that draw up a list and then present him the list that matches the budget range that we have for the position, and then he makes the final decisions. After that, I talk to the managers, to the agents to finalize the contract. I take care of that together with our legal advisor. So this is my job before the season starts. Once the season starts, I have to take care of the whole planning for the whole year, and then organize every trip with our travel agency, with the hotels we're going to stay in, and I take care of all that too. And then it's basically monitor everything during the season if there is any issue outside the court with the players, or if I can support also anyone from the team with themselves or their families. So that's basically my job.
Yeah, no, those are definitely really important responsibilities you have on your hands. My next question, in your new league, your playoff system's a little complicated or different. Could you explain how it works and where does Antwerp stand in the playoffs?
Yes, so it's very special for everyone. It took me a while to understand the whole process. It's the first year, so of course, it's subject to improvement. I guess we're gonna all sit together after the season and evaluate where and how we can improve the model. So basically, you still play the national playoff in the Netherlands and in Belgium, and in parallel, you have the B-Next playoff going on as well. So in your home ranking, so in Belgium and in the Netherlands, the first top 16 start the playoff quarterfinals. The first two don't get in before the semifinal, and the third and the sixth play together, and the fourth and the fifth play together in both countries. Then the lower team that were in a silver group already starts rounds in a B-Next playoff. Whenever you lose in your national playoff, you jump in a B-Next playoff, right? And so forth. So and then if let's say you lose in the quarterfinal of the national playoff and you jump in a B-Next playoff, and you still have a chance to go until the end and win the B-Next league. But if you lose in the B-Next playoff, your season is over. So, and it goes so forth. So if you lose in the national playoff in the quarterfinal, you jump in the B-Next, and then you can continue if you win in the B-Next. If you lose in the semifinal of the national playoff, you jump in a and so forth, And so it's pretty clear when you understand it. It's not easy to understand.
Where does the Giants stand in the playoffs right now?
Oh my God. We had a terrible year. I'm sorry, my wife just made a joke. she walked back trying to distract me. I'm sorry. we had a terrible year. We had to let go our coach in January. We couldn't, or we didn't agree with the board on a replacement, and we had one of our assistants take over. It went pretty okay, but it was a lot of ups and downs, and we surprisingly, we lost in the quarterfinals this past Saturday. So it's a big. Everybody is very disappointed. So now we are out of the Belgium playoff. We lost to Mons, and then now we're gonna play in a B next playoff. And and everybody is so disappointed that this weekend it was all about try to get everybody back together and like kind of talk to the guys, to make them understand that this B next playoff is also important. The season is not over yet. It looks like the player kind of got the message. Practice was okay today. And of course, the games are less sexy, if I may say, at this point, because you play lower teams. The goal was to play Ostende in the semifinal, but now you have to go and Wednesday and play Brussels. That finished 9th in the ranking at the end of the season. But I guess you have to fight as a professional organization. You cannot give up, and you have to fight until the end. So that's where we're standing right now.
So when you guys out here, when NBA teams are evaluating draft prospects, two of the big things that they look for are like age and potential, and then like just their pure raw athleticism. We feel like most Euro teams don't evaluate talent in the same way, and we just kind of wanted to see if we get your insight on what do you guys typically look for in a player, and how do you feel that's different from the NBA game?
NBA is it's a player league, right? Am I correct if I say this? It's a player league.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, in Europe, it's definitely not about, it's about the organization. It's about the team. We're looking for team players. We're looking to have a team chemistry, and that's usually those organizations that can create this kind of environment that's going to go far in their league. Of course, you're going to need talent. If more money you have, the more talent you can buy. But let's say a player like Mike James, who is probably one of the most talented player in Europe. He was playing for CSKA Moscow, and because it's not a player league, and the coach is really the boss there. The coach is the boss of the team, and he got into some type of argument with the coach and had to leave the team, and he went to I think he came back to the NBA last year before coming back to Europe this year. So and before that he was in Milan, and the same thing happened with Messina. Messina is the boss there and didn't want to have a troublemaker, and he let him go before even the season started based on a reputation. So just to emphasize that we're looking for a team player. Of course we want talent, but the main focus and the team that do well is the team that can create a team chemistry kind of spirit. So that's what we usually look for.
Guy, last year we became acquainted because one of your players was a serious NBA prospect. And of course, I'm talking about Vrenz Bleijenbergh. Was he the best NBA prospect to ever come out of the Belgian league, or at least from Antwerp?
Yes, he is. We have like legends here in Antwerp. We have few names, but at that time when they were at their primes, it was not, the European players were not really going to the NBA. So Vrenz in the modern basketball is the biggest talent we have had. Yes, we have DJ and Benga that went to the NBA, but it was not originally from Belgium. He came to Belgium when he was maybe a little older, 17 or something like this. So like born and raised in Belgium, Vrenz is probably the most talented guy we had. Yes.
Okay. And did that experience last year, did that gain you did that gain the team any extra exposure? Were there positives from that for you?
Not really, to be honest,
Okay.
not really.
Okay.
Not really. I think it was all about Vrenz mainly.
Right.
Also, we were of course hoping that Vrenz would reach as far as he could, first for himself as a person, as a player, but also for the organization, because obviously there is a huge buyout involved if he's drafted in the first round, or if he has to go to the NBA at all. So, of course, for the organization, we were hoping that he will make it. But then, anyway, it was time for Vrenz, after being in a discussion to maybe get drafted. It was time for him to leave Antwerp, because we felt like he needed a better market for his talent. And then the option of Sevilla came, and I think it was a good situation also for the club. A kid that was coming close to the end of his contract, it was time to let him go and continue to develop his talent. So he went to Sevilla. It was a fair part, a fair share for the organization as well. So it was a good move for us.
And last question on Vrenz is, and I hope this doesn't make you uncomfortable, but I got a sense that there was some friction between he and the team. Was that because he just was so focused on the NBA, or was that a personality thing? Or,
well, I think at least for me and for the coach at the time, it was very important to help Vrenz grow as a young man, because we felt like going to the US would be something completely different that we felt it was not ready for. Vrenz, like, you have to know his background. It comes from a very let's say a rich family. He's very comfortable. The kid is 19, he drives a different car every day from mom, from dad, So, but I'm talking about like Audi A8 or Porsche, something like this, and so for us, it was very important to teach him, help him grow as a young man, to try to get him ready. Some behavior were not acceptable, like we were trying to have him understand that although he was in a discussion for the NBA, he was not above the team. Like I mentioned before, team is the most important in Europe. So we were also trying to make him understand that it was not above the team. It was the team first, the team objective, and then his individual objective come after. And it was not always easy, to find that balance for Vrenz. Of course, that attention, people coming, like people like you talking to him, people from ESPN coming to have some interview. All the hype is not always easy to handle and manage for a young man, especially when you don't see that too much in Belgium. I understand that part too, but it was our responsibility to be there and trying to help him. Therefore, maybe, yes, sometimes it was some friction. I think you're correct on this.
Okay. I'm going to pass it back to TJ.
Right now, your team has one rookie from the United States. That's Cameron Kurtzwig from Loyola Chicago. You also have two former NBA draft picks in Markel Brown and Jalen Hands. The name of the league, B-Next, suggests that the league will serve as a developmental league for young talent. Is the goal to attract more U.S. college players who would normally go to the developmental league in the United States, like the G League?
Yes, definitely. We are known in Belgium and even in Europe as an organization that have seen many young talents go through us to go make it to the next level. Before that, we had Deshaun Tate that played 1 year for us and then went to Australia and then to now we all know the story in Houston. We had many other stories like that. Players went through us, and they're now playing in the EuroLeague. So we are known for that. If a player come to us and do good, most of the time he gets a better deal the following year, playing a better league, Spain, Italy, Turkey. So this is something we've been doing for years, and we're going to continue to do, simply also because we don't have the budget to go and sign 5 experienced players, because they would be too expensive, simply as that.
Makes sense.
There seems to be a high degree of roster turnover in the Belgium league and across Europe in general. I hope I pronounced this correctly, but Oostende has won the league title for, I think it was 10 years in a row. And what do you think their secret is? Do you think it has something to do with them maybe keeping their core together? Is there like a strong roster that they kind of keep bringing back year over year?
That's a very good question. In my opinion, there are 2 things. Oostende and this is always a big discussion. In my opinion, they have the biggest budget. And one thing in any league in Europe you have to have the best local players. All right. So for all those past years, they always had 4 or 5 players part of the national team, or even sometimes the coach of the national team is the coach of Oostende. Sometimes he will only pick 3, but they always had 4 or 5 players able to play the national team. That's one thing. So they had the core of very strong Belgian players, right? Because the rule says you can only have 6 homegrown players, 6 foreigners, right? So they're already starting with a good solid base of 5 very good Belgian players. And then they have Djordjevic, their point guard. He's been playing there for 10 years. He's got a passport now, so he doesn't even count as a foreigner. He counts as a Belgian player. That's an extra addition there that gives stability to the club. And so for me, this was the main thing, that continuity that they've been having for all those years with those good Belgian players. And they also have, and you have to give that to them, they also have a good, they always recruit good every summer. They bring good import players. That's something they do well also. And finally, I think they have a very good coach. They have a very experienced coach. And I think, especially in Europe, everything starts with the coach. You need the right coach for your organization. Most likely you need to be disciplined. You need to have a coach that's going to bring discipline, because it's going to be about execution, since it's a team play. You're not going to have a star there scoring 30 every game, because the way the defense is set, you need a team play, you need to execute, and you need a coach that's going to bring that discipline on everyday base. And Oostende, they have that with Dario Georgia. And that's something I've been fighting here to have, and I think we're going to have that next season. That doesn't mean we're going to win, because you don't, you need to build those things, and you don't do that in 1 year. It takes time. It takes time. But we're going to be there every time, because we normally have the budget to finish in top 2 every year. And last 2 years, we have failed to do that. And some change are needed. We're going to do that this summer, and hopefully it's going to be better in the coming years.
All right, Guy, here's the last question. And, our site is about, the NBA draft mainly. And the highest ranked prospect that we have on our draft board from the B-Next League is Mikael Jantunen from Oostende. So he actually I was looking at his stats today. It's on Synergy. They're quite amazing. He ranks at the 99th percentile for points per possession. And he's been scoring inside and outside. Do you think he's the best NBA prospect in your league right now?
Oh, that's a good question. To me, Jalen Hurts is the best NBA prospect there.
No. I meant for the draft.
Oh, for the draft.
Yeah.
Yes, of course. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Oh yeah, no doubt. Yeah.
What were
How
you
old
gonna?
is he? How old is he?
He let's see.
He's currently 22 years old.
So this summer gonna be his draft.
Isn't he only played 2 years at Utah, and this is his first year with Ostende,
Okay.
right?
Yeah,
right?
That's his first year with Ostende, but
this is his draft. Yeah.
Okay,
So,
wow. Okay.
Yeah. So so would you think that I mean, to me he's from Finland, and to me I'd call him a poor man's Lauri Markkanen. Do you like his chances to at least make an NBA roster? No,
I wouldn't put
no.
Not from what I've seen. I'll be surprised. Let's say I'll be surprised, but you never know,
Right.
You never know. One GM there might see something that I don't see, or think about using him a certain way. But I saw him. We played him maybe 4 times this year, and he's doing something solid, especially after the injury of Gilet, where he has more playing time now. But it didn't cut my eyes as a huge talent. I see he's a hard worker. He works very hard, and he can hit some shots sometimes, but he's not really the guy that you're going to put there to stretch the floor for you. He's just a very hard worker, and on that position in our league, we don't have many guys with that kind of athleticism. So he's maybe taking advantage of that,
right.
But I wouldn't call him a huge talent in my eyes. He's a very hard worker, a decent guy. So yes, you never know. But no, it didn't catch my eyes like, oh my, who is this kid? Like you would see Vrenz, you would immediately think, who is this kid? Like he's 208. Yes. He can dribble the ball. He can pass. He can shoot. He can do it all. You think, wow, you just need to change something here. Continue to work on his body, and it might be something special.
Right.
But you see it right away. But for Jantunen, I didn't see that. I see a hard worker, Dario Georgia style. But besides that, no.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. And what were you going to say about Jalen Hurts?
Oh my God, this kid has so much talent. It's amazing. I'm so sad that he didn't have the right guidance all the time that he was with us. This kid is, what I like about this kid is also that he's passionate. He wants to learn every day, all day, and he keeps asking for help, support. Like, what can I do better? What he just wants to win and get better. He just loves basketball. He can jump out of the gym. He can shoot. He can do anything on the court. Really, he just need to do better in defense. Defensively, he's not really focused on defense. That's not his thing, obviously. In Europe, you need to play defense. Coaches don't like it if you don't play defense and make effort, especially when he's away from the ball. He gets distracted sometimes, and then it goes fast, screen, and he's late. Things like that. But as far as pure talent, I haven't seen something in like this in a long time.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, very good player. I don't know who drafted him. Was it the Nets? I think it was the Nets, late second round.
I'm not sure it was the Nets. I think it was the Clippers, and then he got exchanged.
Oh, okay.
And then he went to the Nets with the G League team, and then his went to Detroit, but the Detroit didn't have a G League team, so then he went to Serbia or something like this. Yeah.
Right.
FMP.
but I'm very very familiar with his game. I watched him a ton at UCLA, and I liked him coming out of college. So yeah, I hope he makes it back to the NBA soon.
Yeah, I hope for him too. You know, if not, then I hope he plays on a level where his talents belong here in Europe. You know, but for that he needs a good coach for 1 or 2 years, and then the kid's gonna explode for sure.
Right. Well, thank you so much, Guy. I really appreciate your time. Next time we're gonna get your wife on too to tell jokes.
No problem. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, and please visit us again, and hopefully you'll have a better season next year.
Yes, we have to, or might not be here to talk to you again.
Oh no, that would not be good.
We never know. I mean, you know how it goes. It's a business, so I understand. I know next year is a very important year for me as well. So I got to make sure I make the right choices, because otherwise, they might look for somebody else to make those choices. So I know it.
All right, so gentlemen, we're going to wrap up the show here with the mailbag. And basically this week, all I got was Raptor fans sending me clips of Joel Embiid fouling people. So I'm not quite sure what that has to do with Siakam breaking Embiid's face. Anybody want to, did anyone say that Joel Embiid never fouled anyone?
No, they're just still clinging on to that ring that they won because all the Warriors got hurt. So the Raptors think they're relevant. They won a championship because Klay Thompson and Kevin Durant got hurt. That's what it was.
Rich,
so they think they deserve a seat at the table. It's like, shut up.
I'm wondering if Buzzsprout has a feature where you can just block a podcast to a certain country completely. Is there an ability to do that, just to completely just wipe out Canada?
I do not know.
Okay, I don't care if they hate us as long as they're listening to us.
Yes, that's right. Exactly.
They can hate me as much as they want.
So hold on one second here.
He says with his Draymond Green jersey on.
Exactly. They can hate me as much as they want. I'm sure they'd love to come to California, get out of the Canadian tundra. Not a good old sunny California.
That's my point. How do they have all the time in Canada to send me these clips? I mean, aren't they busy like being unemployed and blocking traffic in the one road that exists in Canada? Or I thought they spent most of their time watching Terrence and Phillip reruns.
Nah, they're out there herding their moose,
drinking
their maple syrup.
Did you guys?
Toronto's pretty great. I can say that Toronto is pretty cool.
I like Toronto as well. The city is it is pretty cool. I agree. But I wanted to ask you something.
Hear that? All the Canadians? We love Toronto on this podcast.
Yeah. But wait, I have to ask. This is my own like mailbag question. Do you remember? You remember? Did anybody see the movie Argo about the Iran hostage crisis? Okay, so apparently Canadians were upset of how they were portrayed in that movie. And the movie made the CIA out to be the heroes. And according to them, that some of their people were also key to the rescuing of the hostages. So when I read that, I was wondering, does Canada have like a CIA?
Yeah, they have a counterpart. It's the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. So what is that? The CSIS. Yeah, I don't know anything about them. But wow. they do have like a security intelligence service.
Huh. So can anyone here actually imagine a Canadian James Bond?
All I know is that all over the walls of the CSIS is Rich's face. And it's a big wanted podcaster.
Number one. Yeah, Public Enemy number one, right in the top 10.
Constant Canada slander.
What are these? What's the initials of the of their
CSIS, Canadian Security Intelligence Service.
SIS. All right. So I just have this image of a Canadian James Bond and a Canadian Q. You all know who Q is, right? Comes up with the fancy. But I have a feeling like, the Canadian James Bond goes to see Q and he's like handed like exploding cigars and whoopee cushions. Those would be his, would be his special scientific high-tech tools. All right, so
really quick, guys. I got one more for you, really quick. Just to gauge everyone's quick opinion. The new Twitter beef in the NBA is now Shaq and Rudy Gobert going head to head, and Rudy Gobert came out and said that he would have quote unquote locked Shaq's ass down. Any opinions on that one, really quick? I'm just kind of curious.
Whoa.
I think Shaq would give Rudy Gobert 30 and 15 and then break him in half and send him back to France.
Shaq would have his nuts on Rudy Gobert's neck 6 times a game.
It's just the newest Twitter beef, so I just thought, why not have?
Why are they fighting? What prompted this?
There was Shaq does a podcast, and he was talking, and somebody made the comment that he's like, I think because Shaq was talking about like centers in the NBA are becoming more and more just either like there's the few elite ones, and then everybody else is just a big guy who grabs rebounds. And somebody said that Rudy Gobert could lock Shaq down, and Shaq said, and then Shaq went on a rant, and then Rudy Gobert took offense to that and said he could lock Shaq down. And I think Shaq would give Rudy Gobert 30, 15 and ship him back to France in pieces, but that's just me.
I was just gonna say that I think with Rudy Gobert, I have no issue with him defending himself about trying. But he has to know his reputation at this point, and that no matter what he says, it's gonna be like, yo, Gobert, we're not really fans of your game, essentially. And
he couldn't guard Dwight Powell and Maxi Kleber. What the hell is he gonna do with Shaq?
Gobert, I get it, but he shouldn't be igniting the conversation like this.
This is a man who cried because he didn't make an all-star team.
He also during COVID went around licking. Didn't he go around licking?
He licked his hands and touched all the mics and everything.
Yeah. So that wasn't the smartest thing. And then he got COVID like 3 days later.
He's gotten COVID twice, I'm pretty sure.
He's gotten it twice.
I'm pretty sure he's gotten it twice.
All right. So should we stop it now before we alienate 2 countries in one episode?
Yeah, this is the international episode, and we've just finished it by.
Are you kidding me? The French are going to listen to this podcast and surrender. They're going to send us a formal email saying, "Hey, you guys own our country now." History jokes.
All right, so folks, please. I've seen enough clips of Joel Embiid fouling people. I get it; he fouls people. So please send real questions to admin@hoopsprospects.com. I want to thank our guest Guy Mura, a French native, for coming on the show. And I also want to thank all of our listeners. Make sure to join us next week as we will be talking about the top prospects from the G League and Overtime Elite and a couple other mystery prospects like Shaden Sharp. And we will be joined by Santa Clara guard Jalen Williams, one of the top mid-major prospects in this draft. So we'll see you next week.